Welcome to the next session of Programming for Problem Solving. The topic for the day is programs and algorithms. Now, what is a program? A program is a sequence of instructions to perform a specified task with the help of digital computer. A program is initially written in a human understandable form, which is called the source code of any programming language. This source code is then converted into an executable form that the computer can directly execute the instructions. So what is a computer program? It is a set of instructions. It is not one instruction, but it is a set of instructions that actually instruct the computer of what is expected from it. Now, a programmer cannot directly write a program in a form that is understandable and executable by a computer. So, a programmer writes a program in a higher level language, which is very close to the normal language that we use. And then it is the responsibility of various system softwares to convert that program written in a high level language into a machine language which is directly understood by the computer. What are the features of a good program? Now, anybody can write a program. You can write multiple solutions for a program. There are multiple ways of approaching the concept of writing a program, but still you must follow a certain guidelines to make an effectively good program. So the first feature of a good program is minimal complexity. You must avoid unnecessary complexity into the program just for the sake of saving time. You should always try to create or code a program with a minimum complexity. Ease of maintenance. Updating the program is an important idea. Once you write a program, then depending upon the time and the requirement of the user, it may be required to make changes into those programs. How easy those changes can be made into the program is a measure of ease of maintenance. Loose coupling. Now, actually a total project is a group of lot of programs, lot of modules, lot of procedures. Loose coupling means how these modules or these procedures are interconnected to each other. If making changes into one module results into the propagation of the same into other modules, then it is called tight coupling. So what you want is you want to achieve loose coupling. You should be able to make changes into the one module without having to worry of its propagation into the other modules. Extendability or scalability. Scalability refers to the feature of adding or removing the features from a program. How easy is your program so that we can add additional components to the program without affecting the current program is called the scalability or the extendability. Reusability. Now, a project is a very lengthy task, lot of people, lot of time, lot of money involved, and at least 10% of the components can be reused. So how effectively you write your program so that it can be reused in the future projects is very important. Portability. Basically, when we write a program, sometimes it is in the nature of a programmer to write the program for a particular system, which is not a good idea because when you try to run that program into any other system, it does not work. So what is portability? Portability refers to the feature of a program by which you can execute a program in different environment without having to make any major changes into it. Comments. Now you know that a program is written into a higher level language, which is very strictly called a programming language, which follows the construct of that programming language. When you write a very lengthy program, it is not easy for someone else to read that program with lot of comfort. They are not able to understand what you have written in the first go. So how to make these programs readable? By adding comments. Comments are the non-executable code. They are not executed. They are just for making the program more readable. More the comments you add, more meaningful comments you add, it becomes easy for the new person to understand what the program is actually doing. Standardization. You cannot write the program the way you want it to. You cannot name the variables the way you want it, because a program, a project is not an individual work. It is a team work. You may be in a team, you may not be in a team. If you do not follow the standardizations, then it will become near to impossible for a new person to make changes into that program. So it is always the right thing to follow the standardizations in every scenario or every aspect of program writing. Steps in problem solving. First of all, you must clearly specify what the problem is. For that, you need to understand in detail the complexities of the problem, the different scenarios that you can use to solve that problem. You have to talk to the individuals who want that solution, a user or a customer. And then you have to properly draft a specification that is suggesting what is the problem in hand and how we can approach that solution. Analyze and break down the problem into an algorithm. Now the problem may be very large. You cannot write a single program solution for it. It is very important that you break the overall solution to that problem into smaller sets, smaller algorithms, smaller functions, and then work on those algorithms. It becomes easy. Parallelism is possible. If you break a program into smaller algorithms, then those smaller algorithms can be given to different programmers for implementation. A single large program is never a good solution for the project. The last two phases, that is writing the code, compile the code and run an executable, these both can be done in parallel. That means you can write the code at the same time. Even if the code is not finished, you can test the program so that you can identify the problems at the early stage. And if no changes are required, you can further proceed, and if the changes are required, make those necessary changes and again test the program. Now, what is an algorithm? Basically, you are not writing a program directly in any programming language. Algorithm is independent of any programming language, and it is extremely close or very close to the normal language that two human beings use. So what is basically an algorithm is a step-by-step specification of what the program is expected to do. An algorithm is a step-by-step representation of a solution to a problem in finite number of computation steps. This is very important. You cannot give a solution to a problem which is infinite in nature. You don't know whether the solution will come or not. An algorithm is only successful if you are able to find a solution in finite number of steps. Now, finite does not necessarily means very less number of steps. For a very complex problem, the steps may be extremely large, but those should be finite. That means there is an end to that solution. It is, or you can say that it is a step-by-step set of commands for solving a problem in a limited number of iterations, like it is already stated. But in this, there is another important term. The commands for each step are unambiguous. You cannot write a command which has more than one meaning, and that is a very poor algorithm. For example, write. Now, write can have multiple meanings, divide or anything. Whenever you give or write anything, it is very important that those terms should be unambiguous. What you are trying to say has only one meaning. And if your algorithm is providing an unambiguous and a solution within finite number of steps, then that algorithm is considered to be effective. Complexity of an algorithm. Now, it is not necessary that you have only one algorithm available for a particular set of particular problem. You can give the problem to multiple users and ask them to write the algorithm for the same. And all the algorithms may be correct, but which one is the best? Now, that decision can be taken on the basis of the complexity of the algorithm. Now, the complexity of the algorithm can be measured in two terms. One is called the time complexity, and the other one is called the space complexity. Time complexity. Do not get confused by the term time. Basically, you ask it to someone, they will all say that the amount of time it takes. No, algorithm cannot be directly executed. An algorithm is non-executable statements. You have to convert that into a program and then only you can execute it. So algorithm is non-executable, whereas a program is executable written in a particular programming language. So what does time means? Time basically refers to the number of computational steps it takes to solve a problem. So it is not in terms of the time, but it is in terms of the number of computational steps. How many steps are required to solve a particular problem? There is another measurement for that, which is the number of operations, because sometimes there is only one step but there is large number of operations in that step. So sometimes rather than using the number of computational steps, you define the time complexity of the algorithm by the number of computations that are required to solve the problem. Space complexity, on the contrary, is the number of data objects and variables that we are going to use in a program. So when you design an algorithm, it is very difficult to improve any existing algorithm in terms of both the time and the space. So both of these cannot be achieved at the same time. There is a trade-off between the two. If you want to improve the time complexity of an algorithm, then you have to compromise on the space. And if you want to improve the space, then you have to compromise on the time. So a decision of which algorithm is better than the other algorithm can only be taken if you are able to measure the time complexity and space complexity of the algorithm. Categories of algorithms. Broadly, there are three categories of algorithms. One is called sequential or stepping. The second one is conditional, and the third one is looping. What is a sequential algorithm? A sequential algorithm refers to the instructions required to solve the problem are set out one after the other in the sequential form. So that means all the instructions are given in a sequential order and we will follow all those instructions in that same order to solve it. So that means instruction number 1, instruction number 2, instruction number 3. We are going to follow all these instructions sequentially. We cannot execute or we cannot compute the instruction number 3 before instruction number 2. That is called the sequential form. The second aspect of the sequential algorithm is that the problem is solved using an algorithm with a set of instructions in a set order. Set order means sequential form, which is followed only once. This is another important aspect. If you have 5 instructions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, sequential means you will follow these instructions in that same order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And none of these instructions will be executed twice. You cannot do it like this, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it is not in sequential. Sequential strictly means 1, 2, 3, 5, and only once. That is why it is also known as stepping, moving one step at a time. You cannot repeat it and you cannot skip it. So this is what we call sequential algorithm. So here is an example of a sequential algorithm. The problem that we have in our hand is to find the sum of two numbers. It's a very basic problem. We want to find the sum of two numbers. And here is the algorithm. The algorithm consists of 4 steps. So that means we are going to execute these steps sequentially, one after the other. What is the first step? The first step says input. That means ask the user to provide the value of the first variable, that is number 1, because we want to find the sum of two numbers. The second step is also to accept the input for the second number, let's say number 2. So we have successfully processed the first two steps. The third step is an operation, and the name of that operation is add. So what is that add operation? The add operation is to add the two numbers, and then using the assignment operator, we are going to assign the sum of two numbers to the third number, which is NUM3. So now we have successfully completed the 3 steps. We have taken the input for the first number, we have taken the input for the second number, and we have computed the sum of the two numbers, which is saved in number 3. The last step is to display, that is print the answer to the user, and the answer will be given in the form of sum of the first number and the second number is number 3. So this is how a simple sequential algorithm works. I hope it was clear to you. The second type of algorithms we have are called conditional algorithms. Now, what is a conditional algorithm? Here, the instructions required to solve the problem are set out based on a condition. That is, it is the outcome of the condition that decides whether the given set of instructions will be ultimately required or not. So we have two things. One is a condition, and one is whether a set of instructions will be executed or not. In sequential, we know that all the instructions will be executed one after the other. But in conditional, it is not necessary that all the instructions will be executed. It will depend upon the outcome of some condition whether we are going to execute a certain set of instructions or not. If you want to just take an example, just consider that we are following something like this, a path like this. And then we have two paths, one on the left hand side, which actually joins back the sequential path here. And from this point, we have one path which is moving towards the right hand side and coming back and joining this path. This is the start and this is the end. And from this point to this point, we have two alternative paths. One is this one and one is this one. We cannot follow both of these paths. So we will follow only one path, and that path will depend upon the outcome of this instruction. If it is true, then we may follow this path. If it is false, then it may follow this path. But it is not possible to follow both the paths. That is conditional algorithm. Let us take an example of the same. So here we have written an conditional algorithm. So we will see why we call it as an conditional algorithm. The problem in hand is to check whether the given number is even or odd. So we are going to check whether a given number is even or odd. For first of all, we need to understand what is even or odd. Any number, if divided by 2, gives a remainder 0 is called even. If any number divided by 2 gives a remainder 1, then it is called a odd number. So how the algorithm actually proceeds? Step number 1 will be executed. We are going to accept the input for the number for which we are to check whether this number is even or not. The second is an operation by which we will compute the remainder of the number. So how we will compute the remainder of the number? We will divide the number by the 2 and store its remainder in a variable. So if we divide any number by 2, there are only two possible values for the remainder. One is 0 and one is 1. So now we will apply a conditional operator to check whether the remainder is 0 or 1. So in step number 3 here, we check whether the value of the remainder is 0 or not. And the execution of the next statement. I repeat, the execution of the next statement, which is this one. It will depend upon the outcome of the instruction number 3. If the instruction number 3 is true, we will execute this instruction, which has been highlighted using an oval shape. And in case if the remainder is not 0, that means the instruction number 3 returns false, then we are going to execute the instruction highlighted right now using a rectangular shape. So we have two options. If the remainder in the instruction number 3 is 0, we will execute the instruction highlighted using the oval shape and print the number is even. Otherwise, we will print the number is odd highlighted using the odd. So both of these instructions cannot be executed. Only one of these two will be executed. That is why it is called conditional algorithms. The third and the last category of algorithms are called looping algorithms. Now, what are looping algorithms? Looping basically means repeating something in a loop again and again. So we have a set of instructions which are written in a sequence, but there is a need to execute some of those instructions repeatedly. So the problem is solved using an algorithm with a set of instructions in a set order. Like I said, a sequential order of the instructions has been given, which which is followed repeatedly. Some of them may be followed repeatedly. For example, if you have a sequence of instructions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you may repeat it or you may execute it like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that means instruction number 1, 2, and 3 were repeated 3 number of times. So this is called the looping algorithm, where there is a need to execute a certain set of instructions repeatedly. So here is an example. In this example, first of all, we will see what is the problem in hand. The problem in hand is to print all the numbers between two numbers. So for example, if you have two numbers as 5 and 10, we will print all the numbers that come in between 5 and 10. Which are those numbers? Those numbers are 6, 7, 8, and 9. So let us start. The step number 1 says input the first number. Let us suppose that the user enters number 1 is equal to 6. So what is the value of number 1? The value of number 1 is 6. Then instruction number 2 is input the second number. Let us suppose that the user enters 10. So that means number 2 is equal to 10. So what should be the output of this program? We are to display all the numbers between these two numbers. That means 7, 8, and 9. Step number 3 is an internal process which says that number 3, or the starting number from where we are going to print, will be 1 more than number 1. So number 3 will become 7. So this is from where we are going to start printing the numbers. Have a look at instruction number 4. Instruction number 4 says print number 3. So what will be printed on the screen? 7, which is the value of the variable number 3. Step number 5 says set the value of number 3 is equals to number 3 plus 1. So we are basically going to increment the value of number 3 by 1. Now comes the conditional statement at step number 6, which checks whether the value of number 3 is greater than number 2 or not. Now the value of number 3 is neither greater or nor equal to number 2. That means we will go to step number 4. So that means the algorithm will again start its execution from step number 4. What is step number 4? Step number 4 says print number 3. What is the value of number 3? It is 8. So it will display 8, and then again it will increment the value of number 3 by 1 and it will become 9. Again, instruction number 6 will check whether number 3 is less than number 2 or not. The answer is true. If the answer is true, we will go back again to step number 4. And step number 4 says print the value of number 3, which is 9. And now we will increment the value of the variable number 3 by 1 as given in instruction number 5. Now check in instruction number 6 whether number 3 is less than number 2. The answer is no. If the answer is no, we will not go to step number 4. Instead, we will go to step number 7, which says exit. That is the end of it. So what is the order that we followed for the execution of these instructions? The order was statement number 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then 5, and then 6. After 6, we went back to 4, then 5, and then 6. Again, we went to step number 4, 4, 5, and 6. After repeating these 3 times, we did not go back to step number 4 because the condition returned false, and hence we executed the instruction number 7. So which are the instructions that we repeated? If you look at this very carefully, 4, 5, and 6, 4, 5, and 6, 4, 5, and 6. These instructions were repeated 3 times. That is why this is called an looping algorithm, in which a number of instruction or a set of instructions are executed repeatedly. I hope you were able to understand the concept of looping algorithms. So these were the 3 set of algorithms. These are not the programs. They have not been written in specific to any programming language. They have been written in simple language that is understandable to you. So now you need to convert these into the program, and then only you can execute them. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.